Hello and welcome back to my YouTube station. I'm Nico Bell. I am an author and an editor, and we're working on our series on how to write a book from idea all the way up to the finish line. And today we're going to be talking about plot. Now, we've already discussed character development, and we're going to now stick everything we know about our characters, hopefully, into a plot. Now, you might be a pantser, which means that you may just sit down and write and see what comes out, or you could be a plotter, which is what I am, where you make a lot of outlines and everything's pretty detailed. And so I'm going to kind of give you a little behind the scenes on how I do my plotting. I want to have certain pillars in my story. There are just certain things that every story needs to have, whether you're writing 100,000 words or 100 words. It always starts with some sort of anchoring into your character's current situation. So if you think of the movie Midsummer, we start with what Danny's current life is like. We see her and her boyfriend. We see her worrying about her sister. That's her current reality that she is going to leave behind to go on this big journey. So we always want to start there. But the most important thing in the beginning is to get to our inciting incident or the catalyst as quickly as possible. Now, I have kind of seen some writers debate on like when this needs to happen, as maybe some say you can have it maybe in the second chapter or the third chapter of a book. I am a big believer in having it in the first chapter. If you can't have it in the first chapter, maybe you could do a prologue where the inciting incident's in the prologue and then jump back. But I think that for readers, it's really important. And for you as a reader, I'm sure you can remember stories that you've read where the inciting incident doesn't happen until later, and you kind of start to wonder, like, what's the point of this book? Why should I keep reading it? You want to get to that pivotal moment where everything begins as soon as possible. So again, an example, Midsummer would be the phone call or the realization that what's happened to her family has happened. So that's the inciting incident. That's sort of the first big pillar. And then your character needs to make the decision to go on the quote-unquote quest, the journey, whatever that is. It could be a literal journey, like in Lord of the Rings. It could be a spiritual journey, but they have to actually weigh the pros and cons of leaving behind their world that they're living in and going into the next world. And that's going to be the shift between your Act 1 and your Act 2. So that's your next pillar. When you get into Act 2, this is the main chunk of your story. This is like, I don't even know, like 70%, maybe more, 75, 80% of your book. And the first chunk of it is going to be leading up to the midpoint. That's your pillar. And then we're leading to Act 3. Everything you need to do needs to get up to that midpoint, okay? The midpoint is a really important moment in the story, and it happens super fast. It's the looking in the mirror moment. It's the self-reflection moment. It's that one thought where you think, what is this character thinking, and are they going to be up for the challenge that's going to be happening? They have to have a sort of self-reflection and think like, who am I? Like literally, who am I? And am I up for the challenge? And sometimes they might not be, and sometimes they might be. But that's the point you're getting to. You're getting to that moment. And you're going to have a lot of trials and tribulations. You're going to be doing a lot of like either wins or losses. But at that midpoint, they're either going to have a false victory or they're going to have a false loss. Things are either going really, really well and they think things are going well and then it's going to turn, or they're losing, and then things are going to turn. So there's a lot of like cat and mouse, a lot of games that are going on in Act 2. And while this is going on, you want to make sure that your character's internal stakes are also being addressed. Are they learning anything about themselves? Are they thinking about the lie that they have been told when they were younger? How is that lie affecting every single trial and tribulation that they're hitting? And as we go on to the midpoint, and then as we go past the midpoint, we're going to start to see that lie being reversed, slowly and steadily being reversed. And the moment when we get into that final act, after we sort of wrap up any of the B storyline and we just sort of get to the point where our character is very self-aware, they really get to the climax and they get to that point where they're like, you know what, I am not this lie anymore. So the character development also continually grows, as well as the stakes. The final act is going to be your aha moment, which could be positive or negative. It's sort of how you spin it. But it's going to be your character doing something at the end that they can't do at the beginning, whatever that may be for your character. And then you have a resolution. Notice it's a revolution, not necessarily a conclusion. It's not necessarily a happy ending, especially in things like horror, maybe sci-fi, things like that. It is simply a resolution. Things get tied up some way or another for your character. That's like a really, really quick run through. There are a lot of really great resources that help with this. The Save the Cat book is something that I've used. I've used Writing from the Middle. I have used resources from Suzanne May Warren, who's an inspirational romance author. There's a lot out there that talk about these pillars and to get you through from beginning to end and to make sure that your character can do something at the end that they can't do at the beginning. So that's sort of just a quick rundown, and we will press on to drafts and editing and get that story done. Happy writing.